The chemical smell of bleach stung my eyes as I stood frozen in the doorway. My daughter's tiny fingers were raw and red, gripping a sponge almost as big as her hand. Tears streaked silently down her face as she scrubbed at the already spotless kitchen floor. The weight of her small shoulders, hunched over in defeat, made something primal and fierce rise within me. A mother's rage so cold and focused it almost hummed beneath my skin. In the background, I could hear the faint buzz of my phone vibrating with excited text messages from my in-laws. Photos of roller coasters, cotton candy, and my niece's beaming face at the amusement park. The same in-laws who had left my 8-year-old daughter alone to learn her place. My name is Riley, I'm 38, and I'm a corporate project director. This is the story of how I dismantled a family dynasty with 7 carefully chosen words at a 5-star restaurant. I didn't shout. I didn't slam doors. Instead, I knelt down beside Olivia, gently pried the sponge from her trembling fingers, and pulled her against my chest. Her small body collapsed into mine, shaking with silent sobs that broke something fundamental inside me. "Sweetheart," I whispered, stroking her hair, "where are Grandma and Grandpa?" She buried her face deeper into my shoulder. "They went to the park with Jessica." "Why didn't they take you?" The words that followed hit me like a physical blow. "Grandma said I had to be punished for spilling my juice." Her voice cracked. "She said I needed to learn my place." Learn her place. 3 words that crystallized years of subtle cruelty into one unforgivable moment. We'd adopted Olivia as a baby. She was our daughter in every way that mattered. Legally, emotionally, completely. But to Nicholas's parents, Veronica and Harold, she had always been secondary, an asterisk in their family tree. The signs had been there from the beginning. Last Christmas, Jessica received an elaborate dollhouse that dominated the living room, while Olivia unwrapped a clearance rack sweater with the discount sticker still attached. When I mentioned it, Nicholas had sighed and said, "You know my parents? They're a little old-fashioned." But this wasn't old-fashioned. This was calculated cruelty directed at an 8-year-old child. I cleaned Olivia up, bandaged the raw spots on her knuckles, and wrapped us both in the softest blanket I could find. We sat on the couch, eating ice cream, straight from the container, while she told me everything. How for 3 days she'd been left behind while they took Jessica for treats. How she did chores while Jessica watched cartoons. How Veronica had looked at her that morning and said, "It's a shame, but blood is thicker than water." When Nicholas walked through the door an hour later, one look was all it took. The color drained from his face as he took in Olivia's red hands, the tear tracks on her cheeks, and the glacial fury in my eyes. I didn't need to say a word. I watched the guilt war with rage across his features. For years he'd downplayed his parents' behavior, always making excuses. But there were no excuses left. He knelt in front of Olivia, his voice thick with emotion. "I am so sorry, sweetie," he said, pulling her into a hug. "I didn't protect you. That will never, ever happen again." It wasn't just a promise, it was a vow. 3 hours later, the front door swung open. Veronica and Harold walked in laughing about something they'd seen at the park. They froze when they saw me sitting on the couch. "Riley," Veronica said, her smile not reaching her eyes, "you're back early." I stood up, my voice dangerously quiet. "Where were you, Veronica?" "We took Jessica to the park. She had a wonderful time," she responded, completely oblivious to the danger she was in. "Why was Olivia left here alone scrubbing the floor?" Nicholas asked, stepping in front of me. His voice was low and tight with controlled fury. Veronica actually scoffed. "We were teaching her responsibility. She made a mess." "A mess?" Nicholas's voice rose. "She's a child, Mom. She spilled juice. You left an 8-year-old home alone as punishment." That's when Harold, who had been silent until now, finally spoke, but not in the way you'd expect. He looked at Nicholas with frustration etched across his features. "You don't understand," he said, his tone condescending. "I'm trying to protect this family's future." It was such a bizarre statement that it hung in the air for a moment, unanswered. Veronica, sensing she was losing control of the situation, went for what she thought was the killing blow. She looked directly at me and said the words that sealed her fate. "Frankly, blood is thicker than water. She's not our real granddaughter." The silence that followed was absolute. Nicholas stared at his mother as if seeing her for the first time. I could physically see the last thread of loyalty, of obligation snap inside him. He spoke first, his voice shaking with a mixture of rage and heartbreak. "You've chosen your blood. Now we're choosing our family." He drew himself up to his full height. "I want you to pack your things and get out of my house." I stood beside him, placed my hand on his back, and nodded once. We were a united front. They stood there, mouths opening and closing like fish out of water, utterly shocked that their power had evaporated so completely. The next morning, as I had anticipated, my phone began ringing incessantly. Then Nicholas's phone, aunts, uncles, cousins, all calling to tell us how ungrateful and disrespectful we were. Veronica had been busy spinning her tale of the oversensitive daughter-in-law and the ungrateful son who had thrown his loving parents out on the street. The pressure was immense. Nicholas paced the living room, torn apart by conflicting emotions. "They're my parents, Riley," he said, his voice breaking. "How could they do this to a child?" "To our child?" I held him close. "We're in this together," I promised. "We'll handle them." It was during that conversation that he mentioned something that made the gears in my mind start turning. "It's just so weird," he said, running his hands through his hair. "For the last month, Dad has been constantly asking about your new project at work, the Phoenix Project. He seemed almost desperate for information." That's when everything clicked into place. The Phoenix Project was my creation, a massive company-wide initiative I was leading, and Harold's small construction company was one of dozens of local firms bidding for a lucrative subcontract. His protecting the family's future line suddenly made a horrifying kind of sense. He wasn't just being cruel. He was trying to curry favor with me in his own twisted, manipulative way. I looked at the calendar. That very night was a formal dinner for potential project partners. The host, my CEO, Mr. Thompson. "Harold and Veronica will definitely be there," Nicholas said, checking the invitation email on his phone. "Dad's been talking about this dinner for weeks. He said it was his chance to secure the Wilson family legacy." "We're going to that dinner," I told Nicholas, a plan crystallizing in my mind. "And we're going together. We're not going to hide. We're not going to let them control the narrative. We're just going to be ourselves." He looked at me, saw the resolve in my eyes, and nodded once. That evening, we dressed for the occasion, left Olivia with her favorite babysitter, and made our way to the upscale restaurant in the city center. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation. This dinner would determine the partners for a multi-million-dollar project. The restaurant was exactly what you'd expect: low lighting, clinking glasses, and the hushed murmur of important conversations. We found our table, and I could feel Harold and Veronica's eyes on us from across the room. Harold was, predictably, hovering near Mr. Thompson's table, waiting for his moment. After a while, Veronica decided she couldn't help herself. She sauntered over, a saccharine smile plastered on her face. She directed her words to Mr. Thompson, who was making his rounds and had stopped by our table. "It's just so wonderful Riley is so successful," she said, her voice dripping with insincerity. "She's a wonderful mother to her little adopted girl. Family is just the most important thing, isn't it, Mr. Thompson?" This was it, the moment of truth. I smiled back just as sweetly. "Thank you, Veronica," I said, maintaining perfect composure. "You're right. Family is everything, and I believe the values we hold in our family, like integrity, trust, and basic human decency, are the same values we should look for in our business partners." I then turned my full attention to my boss. "Mr. Thompson," I said, my voice clear and professional, "speaking of integrity, it's the absolute cornerstone of the Phoenix Project. Based on some new information that has recently come to my attention regarding character and judgment, I believe we need to conduct a much deeper due diligence process on all potential partners, including Mr. Wilson's company, to ensure they are fully aligned with our corporate values." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't get emotional. I simply stated a professional concern. The effect was instantaneous. A hush fell over the table. Harold, who had been making his way over, froze mid-step. His face transformed from confident to ashen in a heartbeat. Mr. Thompson, a shrewd and perceptive leader, understood immediately. He didn't need the details. He trusted me. He gave me a slight, serious nod. An excellent point, Riley. Thank you for your diligence. Then he looked past me, his eyes landing on my father-in-law. Mr. Wilson, he said, his voice cool and dismissive, perhaps we'll postpone our discussion indefinitely. The public humiliation was absolute. It wasn't a loud explosion. It was a silent, devastating implosion of Harold's hopes right there in front of his peers. In the parking lot, they tried to stop us. Panic was etched across their faces. Riley, wait, Harold pleaded. But this time, Nicholas stepped in front of me. He looked at his father not with anger anymore, but with a kind of sad finality. This was never about business, Dad, he said, his voice steady. This was about my daughter. You tried to use my wife for a business deal while my mother was emotionally abusing my child. You made your choice. Now we're making ours. He looked from his father to his mother. We're done. Don't call. Don't contact Olivia. Don't contact us. And with that, he opened the car door for me. We got in and we drove away. We didn't look back. As weeks turned into months, we heard through mutual friends that Harold's company had lost not just our contract, but several others as word spread through business circles about his character. The extended family gradually stopped calling as the truth of what happened became impossible to deny. The few who reached out to apologize, we thanked politely but kept at a distance. Some relationships, once broken, can't be mended, and we were focused on healing the ones that mattered most. The 3 months that followed were quiet and healing. We didn't just move on. We actively rebuilt. We started creating a book together, the 3 of us. We called it the Wilson Family Charter. We filled it with pictures and inside jokes, and we wrote down our own rules. Rule number 1, love is what makes a family. Rule number 2, we always listen to and protect each other. Rule number 3, Friday night is always pizza and movie night, no exceptions. Watching Olivia laugh as she drew a big lopsided heart next to rule number 1, I knew we had made the right choice. Her confidence began to blossom. She was lighter, freer. Last week, I was sitting in the living room watching the moonlight stream through the window. My gaze fell on our charter sitting on the coffee table. I used to think family was something you were born into, something you were stuck with. But I know now that isn't true. A true family is a fortress. It's a fortress you build yourself, brick by brick, choosing every person you let inside. It's a fortress you have to be willing to defend, no matter the cost. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles. Zero cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one.